All right. On the first day of December, the TDT sports section gave to you the sports podcast.
Just like we planned it.
Welcome back, everybody. Here we are on a Tuesday night. Josh Weaver, Daniel Zepeda.
Hello.
Marcus Hood.
Howdy.
Well, unfortunately, we lost the remaining area teams that we had in the playoffs last week. 3 of the 4 games were really close. The other one wasn't as close, but it was a tough matchup. We will go over those scores. Still playing into December, although one of the games is a regular season finale and the other one is a first round playoff game. Temple and Belton. We'll get into what's next for the Wildcats and the Tigers as well. But Marcus, please remind everybody, just real quick, the playoff scores that we had from last week.
Sure, I'll be happy to do that. Unfortunately, it's not any happy news. Class 4A Carthage, as a number 1 team should do, beat Salado 35-7.
Ending a really good season for Salado.
Yeah,
11 wins.
I think we were thinking that game could go either way, and Carthage just, they don't make mistakes.
Right.
And kind of a weird one. Buffalo ended Rogers' season 37-35. That one was kind of a close battle.
District rivals.
Yes, indeed.
And a second straight trip to the third round for Rogers. Just couldn't get over that.
And the other 2 teams out of that district are Buffalo's playing another district foe this week.
Yep, Franklin.
Yep. Holy Trinity fell to Curva Our Lady of the Hills 40-36. And then Waco Riker defeated Central Texas Christian School 27-22.
Incredible.
Did I leave anybody out?
No,
that's it.
Those were good runs by our TAP schools there. Both of them getting the first playoff wins in their program history. So that's always a nice feather to put in their cap.
Absolutely.
Yep.
How many feathers does it take to fill up a cap?
I don't know. I feel like you might need to ask the owl from the.
Depends on the size of your head.
Yeah. Or do you just, like, when you get a feather, like a new one, do you just take the old one away and you just add a new one? Or
It's an exchange program.
I don't know. I'm gonna go to a cap store this week and try and find out. I don't know where I can find one.
Cap and a feather story.
Well, you got to buy the cap first.
Yeah.
You got to make sure it's got room for the feathers.
Yeah.
And then I'll just kill some turkeys that are left over from. Oh, never mind.
Kill some turkeys.
Hey,
That's just basic hat 101.
People need their Christmas turkey, so I might as well get them out of the way now.
Oh man.
Take the feathers, put them in my hat. Oh. You don't think these animals are dying naturally?
We are not advocating for going out and just randomly taking out your local turkey on the sidewalk.
It won't be random. Somebody will eat this
Also,
turkey.
it's a planned attack. Oh, Marcus, your plan is coming to light. We know what you do when you're not here at the office now.
Man, I got no playoff teams to cover anymore. I'm looking for something, man.
Things got really, really slow and boring all of a sudden.
I'm coming for you, gobblers.
Where's the edit button?
Oh, there's no. How many weeks have been doing this? Since August, right?
I don't know.
Too long.
Since 2016. Oh, man. Well, on to some other news. The District 12 6A champion Temple Wildcats wrapped up the regular season last week with a 49-6 victory over Clean. That one was wrapped up by halftime, and the ones came out, the twos went in, and everyone got to play, and it was a good time over there at Wildcat Stadium. Next up for Temple in a couple weeks, a little less than a couple weeks now, December 11th at 7:30 p.m. in the first round of the Class 6A Division II playoffs is a game against Waxahachie. The Indians 5-4 this season out of 11-6A. That game will be a home game for Temple since they did earn the number 1 seed in 6A Division II out of 12-6A. And it'll be Temple's second home playoff game in 3 seasons. So the last one didn't go great for Temple, so they're looking for a bit of a reprieve there. But just a quick regular season recap, if I may. I don't want to keep everybody too long. We have, beds to sleep in soon. So I'd like to get to those. Temple's offense ended up averaging over 9 games, 409.2 yards. And when you look at the stats, which you can on our website, just go to the sports tab in 2020 area stats, I think is high school stats, something like
Something like
that.
that.
What is
yeah.
our website again?
TDTnews.com.
There you go.
Oh, thanks for quizzing me.
Just making sure the people know it.
Yeah.
And shameless plug, check.
Yes.
All right. And
Yeah. So if you look at those stats, Temple had 3,683 total yards, and the way it's balanced out is pretty incredible. It was 1,854 rushing and 1,829 passing. So a separation of 25 yards.
I'm trying to think
But you
of
don't
the
really
last
see that
time
very often.
I was maybe the last time we saw something like that was either last season or 2 years ago from like Cameron Yo, something like that.
Yo had a really balanced offense
So
a couple
yeah.
years ago. But
It's
I
pretty
mean,
rare to see it that right down the middle.
And they're not, they're not gaudy numbers from Temple's offense, but just, that unit's just been really efficient and effective all season long, not making a ton of mistakes and just doing what it has to do. Leading the way rushing was Samari Howard. He had 1,040 yards and 15 touchdowns through those 9 regular season games. And quarterback Humberto Arizmendi ended up being the second leading rusher. He scored his first rushing touchdown last week, and he had 461 yards rushing in the regular season, and more than 200 of those in the last couple games. He had 139 2 weeks ago and then 90 last week.
Kind of found his legs there in those last few games.
Yeah. It's a pretty, it's a nice little change of pace for him with that read, run pass option type stuff. Sophomore Michael Harrison Pilot had a team high 36 receptions. He also had at least 1 touchdown receiving, rushing, and passing during the regular season. Howard also had a bunch of receiving yards, 332 and 6 touchdowns. And then A.J. McDuffie, the senior, he had 7 touchdowns receiving. That leads the team. And again, the Temple's offense, not as high-powered as the last couple years, but just really sound. And the same can be said for Temple's defense, which has improved greatly, especially since last season, where they gave up more than 420 yards and about 26 points per game. Those numbers are down to 274 yards per game over the regular season and 18.8 points.
And the points number, I think I read in your notebook, that's down to, when was the last time they averaged around that?
Yeah, in 2016, when head coach Scott Stewart, that was his first year.
Defensive-minded Scott Stewart.
That's correct, yes. It was, you know what? It was actually, this year's 19.6, and I think it was 18.8 that year. So anyway, it's pretty close.
But a trip to the, what was it, the championship
5A1
game?
state championship
Yeah,
game,
so,
against Highland Park. But just in general, Temple's defense has not given up. They call them explosive plays, which is 15 yards a carry or 20 yards on a reception. They haven't allowed many of those this season, which has helped them, make these strides. And they played a lot of young guys last year, and this year, having that experience coming back has proved pretty valuable for that.
Paying dividends.
That side. Yeah, definitely. So that's kind of what's going on with Temple at this point. They got a bunch of practice days and ahead, and so does Waxahachie. Actually, the Indians' last regular season game, which was scheduled for this Friday, was canceled. It was against Duncanville, and so that district, I believe, is just wrapped up. None of those teams are going to be playing until that first week of the playoffs.
And that district's kind of been decided as far as playoffs and seedings and how that was going to break down. So
Yeah.
it was pretty much just all up to 12-6A and kind of the mess, or that's kind of turned into a little bit.
And
But
speaking of 12-6A, the regular season wraps up for the district this week, and Belton's got a big one.
still in it, yeah. It wraps up on Thursday. Belton and Harker Heights playing at Tiger Field. Things are really simple for both squads. If you win, you get to play a playoff game. If you lose, you're sitting on your couch. So, Belton definitely wants to get in, obviously. They didn't make it into the playoffs last year. So making
Snapped
it...
streak of maybe
Yeah.
5 or 6 years.
It was a handful of years, so I mean it was a nice little streak there, and so that's kind of been at the forefront of every single Belton player this year. You know, especially with the new coaching staff, new system. So you want to get that streak back on track, but then also losing the Temple game. The message from day one from the coaching staff and the players has been, let's play as many games possible in a pandemic season. So losing the Temple game obviously hurt, but, if you win on Thursday, you get to play a playoff game and get that 10th game into your season. So it's definitely something both teams want, obviously. And, just to add to it, the winner gets a nice little trip to State Power Duncanville. Anybody ever heard of them? So, yeah, they only reached the state championship for 6A D1 last year. So,
Yeah. So,
real easy game there.
Right. So in that district, 11-6A, the Division I teams, Duncanville is the number 1 seed, and DeSoto is the number 2.
Correct.
In Division I, and Division II is Cedar Hill is the number 1 seed, and Waxahachie is the number 2.
Right.
And in 12-6A, Temple, Shoemaker, and Bryan in that order of finish in 12-6A. Bryan goes to D2 and will play Cedar Hill, and Shoemaker
Going
is going to
D1
and gets the number 1 seed. They get to, I believe, host DeSoto.
Shoemaker host DeSoto?
Yeah,
Okay.
because I believe it's order of finish.
Oh, okay.
In your district, and so anyway,
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's
higher seed.
and we kind of have known this for the past few weeks. I mean, once 11-6A, which is just filled with just ridiculous teams as far as just how good they are, was going to stack up with 12-6A. We knew that it was going to be tough for those 12-6A teams. So that's what's going on with Belton. As far as Harker Heights go, they're kind of like other Killeen schools. They're explosive. They got some good playmakers. They've got size. They've got speed. And a lot of it kind of revolves around here lately, a sophomore running back. His name is, let me bring it up here. I had it earlier. Rashawn Sanford. He's rushed for over 1,000 yards on the season, but really been on a tear lately, running for 150 yards in each of his last 3 games. So, Belton head coach Brett Sniffen kind of started with saying we have to be able to stop this guy. If we can slow him down, makes things a lot easier for the defense and keeps the offense on the field longer. They can put together longer drives, which all season long, that's what they've liked to do is, put together these long drives, eat up clock. Also for Harker Heights, their quarterback, Sean West, he's kind of a question mark going into this game. He's put up some good numbers for the Knights, but he got hurt and had to leave their game against Killeen 2 weeks ago, and then he also did not play last week against Coppers Cove. So we'll kind of see if he plays or not. Obviously, if he doesn't play, Harker Heights has another quarterback that they can go to, which proved last week he can get it done. So it doesn't, it's not an automatic, win for Belton in any sense. But it would definitely make things more difficult for Harker Heights on the offensive end.
Yeah, and I think so. Heights is 4-2 in district.
They're
right
4-2.
Yeah.
Belton 3-3 going into Thursday. So yeah,
The Heights 2 losses. The district opener at Bryan, I think, was by 7, and then lost to Temple by 2. 38-36, I believe, was
right.
and in that game, the Knights led the Wildcats 20-0 at the beginning of the second quarter. So Temple had a rally against Heights in that one to pick up the victory. So Belton's been playing well, but Heights is a very good team.
Yeah, I mean, Heights, they've won 3 in a row after that loss to Temple. They beat Shoemaker 51-50 in overtime. The following week, they handed Killeen, I think, a loss by more than 15 points. And then last week, they handled Coppers Cove 42-20 in the Friday after Thanksgiving. So this is a Heights team that I think at the beginning of district play, a lot of us kind of thought that they would probably be one of the playoff teams to secure a spot. But the way 12-6A is unraveled, you really never know. And then for Temple, I didn't really realize this until I was talking to Coach Sniffen today, but he said, as far as their 3 district losses go, one was a 1-point loss at Bryan, 34-33. The other was their uncontested game against Temple, which they were forced to have to take a loss in that one. And then last week, 27-21 in overtime versus Shoemaker, which they wrapped up a playoff berth there. So you talk about 3 losses that are really kind of tough to take, along with your 3 wins. So Harker Heights is a good team. Belton's a good team. Belton playing at home. Both sides definitely know what's at stake here. And, it's, again, real simple. If you win, you're in the playoffs. If not, well, let's try next year.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be a really good game Thursday night. It's going to be really good, I think.
I think they match up well with each other. Sniffen said he doesn't really see either side having an obvious advantage. It's just going to be, who can execute, who can limit turnovers, which is something Belton continues to try to do. That was kind of their Achilles heel last week against Shoemaker, just too many turnovers against a really good team. So if they can get back to playing the way they did versus Ellison a couple of weeks ago, you have to give them a pretty good shot to win this one.
That's about it as far as football goes and games and things like that on tap. We will be back with either a preview of 1 playoff game next week or 2 playoff games next week.
Time will tell.
That's right. But I'll hand it over to Marcus. I think he's got a few words to say, and then we'll call it a podcast.
It's another one of those weeks, for area sadness, really. Last week we talked about losing Treon Smith, and this week it's a coach that used to be in the area with Jeff Walker, who coached Rogers from 2008 to 2013. He died today, I guess it was, of cancer, only age 52, which kind of, for a couple of us on the sports staff, we're looking at that age going, it's pretty, kind of hits close to home a little bit, because we're kind of getting up there as well. But Walker started his coaching career before Rogers. He was at Liberty Hills, the offensive coordinator. Took the job at Rogers and then went back after taking some time off for his health, went back to Liberty Hill, and that's where he was coaching now. Great guy, good coach. Had some excellent Rogers teams back in the day when he was there in those years. Ran that slot T offense, and he did it well. There's 3 games in particular when he was head coach at Rogers that are still some of the highest scoring games in Texas football history since one of them against Mart, one against Refugio, and one against Schulenburg. Because that offense could just rack up points, and they got it down to a T. And Liberty Hill, they were 8-0 this year, so they had it going on again right now. Never had a losing season. It's just kind of rough to see him go, because he could have, barring those health issues, if he stuck around, probably would have been up there with some of the great coaches in the state. But
yeah, he battled cancer for quite a while, right?
Right.
Did he leave Rogers kind of just to be closer to family because of that? Yeah,
correct. Yeah. That's. Yeah, and back at the time, I don't think that we knew necessarily it was cancer why he left. We knew he had some health issues, but we weren't privy to all the details. And his brother, Kent, coached at Rogers for 1 year after he left, and then Kent went and worked with him at Liberty Hill. Mm-hmm. So, good guy. Always some of those coaches that, I don't think we've ever ran into a real bad coach around here, but always tough to see some of the guys that you know and liked and
right.
Fun to be around.
I'm sure you worked with them or interviewed them quite a few times back then. And I think that game against Refugio was one of our 10 greatest games. Did that make the list, or at least it was up?
It was definitely in discussion.
Right? Yeah. 70 something. It was incredible, right?
It was. I want to say 76, 74, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, something like that.
And what's even more, just kind of incredible is just when y'all were talking, y'all mentioned the fact that, he never wore a headset. He always just, whatever he saw out there, he was the one making the calls. And, you don't see that from coaches nowadays. It's pretty rare. So pretty cool little fact right there.
Yeah. One thing that Eric was telling us earlier that, I'd heard this before and I'd kind of brought it back to mind. he was an offensive guy, and he would tell his defensive coordinator at the beginning of the season, you can have the best player on the team, and I'll take the next best 11, and all the rest are yours. So, because he ran the offense, and that's how he did it. And, some area coaches were just, I don't think they were too unhappy to see him leave Rogers back in the day, because Rogers could put up some points against some teams. And even now, Liberty Hill, they were shutting teams out like 47-0, 56-0 this year. I mean, you go from one slot T offense in Rogers to one that did it well in Liberty Hill.
Yeah.
And Walker knows how to do it. He knew how to do it.
Right.
So, yeah, he'll be dearly missed, especially in Liberty Hill. But hits home with the Rogers community as well. So,
Absolutely. Thank you, Marcus. Talk to everyone next week.
So long.
bye.